Hey folks, so today we're going to be talking about how to understand a timed essay prompt and then plan for a response to it. So we're going to be using the following document, the corresponding document that looks like this, which I encourage you to have out throughout this lecture. Okay, and what this document is it's essentially a prompt and then how a student responded, an actual student responded to that prompt. So we have the student's pre-writing, the student's response, which I've commented on so you can see sort of the strengths and weaknesses of the student's response, as well as some useful phrases throughout the student's essay, phrases that writers use all the time that might be useful to you in a timed essay setting. Okay, so what I'd like us to do is start by thinking about the prompt and how we might address the prompt. Right? So let's go ahead and take a look at it. And this is a very common type of timed essay prompt. Okay, so prompt. Currently, California is debating a ban on the sale of foie gras, a dish made from the liver of a duck that has been force-fed and fattened. Proponents of the ban argue that to make foie gras, ducks are unnecessarily tortured. Opponents, however, say that foie gras is part of a French tradition that government should not meddle with. Should California ban the sale of foie gras? Okay, so notice that in that prompt, it gives two sides of the debate. It says some people think X and some people think Y, right? And that is so common in a timed essay prompt. They'll give you a little bit of a sense of the debate, right? And that's good information for us to think about when we're thinking, okay, which side am I gonna, position myself on? So that's key. But notice at the very end of the prompt, it asks, should California ban the sale of foie gras? And that we often call the command sentence. That's the actual question at hand. And often when we're responding to a timed essay, we need to understand that command sentence, the actual question we're supposed to address. And that is so often, something I see in student writing, that the essay's fine, but they've not quite addressed the actual sentence, the actual question at hand, right? They've kind of, gotten away from it. So we always want to make sure that we find the actual question that we're supposed to be addressing, right? In this case, the actual question at hand is, well, should there be a ban in California on foie gras, right? So you might highlight that, you might underline that, you might do something to make it stand out. That way you keep coming back to that question and that your essay doesn't drift away from it. Okay, so notice what the student has done afterwards. This is the student's pre-writing, right? And they gave a few reasons for and a few reasons against. Okay. I find T-charts so helpful when trying to respond to, in a time setting, trying to respond to a question, just because you don't have lots of time to ponder it. So this might be a useful tactic for you, just to do a quick T-chart of some of the reasons for and against, right? So for the banning of the sale of foie gras, you might challenge yourself to think about, okay, what are the pros and what are the cons? Now, T-charts are really useful, but if you prefer a bubble map, that might also be useful to you. I sometimes call that a cluster, or sometimes just a list, right? All of your points. But I think especially in a position essay where you're asked to take one side of the debate or the other, that a T-chart can be really useful. And what you would do is you would think about all of your reasons for and all of your reasons against, and then you would say, okay, which one do I have more of? Which side of the debate do I seem to be leaning towards? Okay, so let's go back to the student's pre-writing. So notice they have 3 reasons for and 3 reasons against. They're sort of in the middle, right? Which is fine, right? And one of the strategies that you can use is you could address one of the counterpoints. So let's say you're taking the pro position, you're saying there should be a ban on the sale of foie gras. In a paragraph, if you didn't have enough paragraphs, you might address a counter argument. You might say, well, some people think this, but this is why they're wrong. So it's not like you can't use any of the opposing reasons that you came up with. So let's check out the students' reasons. So reasons 4, they said, well, it's cruel to the duck. And then they said, describe the miserable conditions of being force-fed. So that would be what they talked about in that paragraph. Not a common food. And they said, explain that it would not affect most people. Bring up how I've only seen it once on a menu. Not a staple food like bread or milk. And then finally, other foods have been banned. Shark fin and dog as examples. So those are the reasons for. And then there are reasons against. Slippery slope. Other foods might also be banned. Personal choice. People should be the ones to decide what is ethical to eat. And finally, restaurants might lose revenue. Not fair to French restaurants that serve foie gras as part of a cultural tradition. Okay, so I strongly encourage you, when you're in a timed essay setting, to take a few moments, maybe 5 minutes, to do some pre-writing like we saw the student do, just to gather your thoughts. And this can be really helpful in determining your overall thesis, determining your overall position, and then understanding your paragraphs, right? So you might list all of your reasons, list the support examples, the anecdotes, right, that you would use in order to back up what you're saying, right? Okay. So what I will ask you to do now is to actually look at the student's response. And I will say, and we won't go through this together, and I will say that this is a fairly strong timed essay. Now, I am pointing out some of the students' weaknesses as well as their strengths, but I encourage you to read the essay and then look at the side here at my comments, right? And this should be helpful to you so you can think about how other students have approached this task, and you can learn from their strengths as well as their weaknesses. Now, you'll also notice as you're reading this that there's some highlighted phrases, and at the end I've collected them into a little section called useful phrases. Feel welcome in a timed essay setting to use useful phrases like this, and you might even collect your own useful phrases. You might collect your own useful phrases, right? That in a timed essay you can pull from. That way, if you get stuck, you might turn to your useful phrases and say, "Oh yeah, this phrase is going to help me move on to my next point." Okay, so takeaways from this lecture. I hope that when you're in a time setting, which can be really panic-inducing, right, that you take a minute or two just to really understand and digest the prompt, right? Making sure that you are able to locate that command sentence or the actual question or task that you're being asked to respond to, right? Making sure that that's your bullseye, right? That you're not drifting off into another point or topic or discussion. Second, once you understand that command sentence, what's actually being asked of you, I encourage you to spend 5 to 10 minutes coming up with some pre-writing, doing some pre-writing, thinking, and the T-chart might be really useful for that, thinking about the reasons you might say you're for it and reasons that you might say that you are against it. And I encourage you to do this, and you might practice how you would respond to the foie gras question, because that will be really useful and I think helpful to you as you go into your first timed essay. Okay, guys, thank you.